Hello everyone, long time no see. So, this is a video I've been meaning to make for a good while now. I have been in the stoner lifestyle for about 10 years now. And up until very recently, it has been one of my worst habits. Now, when I say the stoner lifestyle, I mean I have been smoking weed every single day, multiple times a day, for 10 years. Now, there were a few moments where I tried to take a break. There was a good month in there where I just stopped and then just hopped right back on the wagon. There were plenty of days where I just didn't smoke at all, but I would say about 95% of the time between now and about 10 years ago, I was getting high. It was to the point, and a lot of stoners will understand this, it was to the point where being high was my default state. You know how with most people, most normal people, being high is like the unique state. It's the differing state. Being sober was the differing state for me. I am a very special case. Well, not really that special, but that's the kind of case I was. And I'm not too far gone from it right now. Last maybe 3 weeks ago I had a gummy, but fairly recently, I'd say about a couple months ago, I severely cut down on my usage. And you know how I am. I'm all about the self-image. I'm all about the identity shaping your habits. So from here on out, I'm no longer a stoner. And that belief is going to carry me through this. Now, I want to use my channel to almost kind of document my journey outside of the lifestyle and share with you guys what it's like. A lot of viewers of mine might be stoners themselves. A lot of stoners might be itching to quit, like I was for a good year or two. I would just have that thought in the back of my head. This ain't good. I gotta stop it. I know it's bad. I got through all of the cope that I would tell myself, oh, it's not that bad, it's actually plant medicine. And those things may or may not be true for the average person. A lot of people have medical cards, a lot of people would be in constant chronic pain without their dear old THC, but I wasn't like that. And if you're watching this and you're a stoner, you're probably not like that either. Most people who cope and say, oh, it's a medicine, it's a plant medicine, they're not using it like medicine. And then I would say things like, oh, it's like alcohol. I'm not going to be, if you treat it like alcohol, it's not that big a deal. If I'm comparing it to alcohol, then I was an alcoholic. Straight up, I was an alcoholic. I would have needed AA, but thankfully, considering the way weed is, in my opinion, it's much easier to quit than alcohol. The withdrawals will absolutely come. They're not going to show up in the way you think, okay? This is why a lot of people say that weed isn't addictive, is because you don't really have withdrawals. What you have is whatever you've been running away from with the weed is going to come back. So any uncomfortable feelings, any negative thoughts, anything you've been trying to cover up, it's going to come back in droves. And something I've actually noticed, which is kind of counterintuitive if you think about it, is when I dropped weed, first week or two was nice. It was simple, easy. Um, I'd be lying if I said I didn't get cravings, but you got to have that steel mentality when it comes to it, especially when you're at the habit that I was at, where you're just doing it every single day, multiple times a day, and your default state is being high. You got to have a steel mentality and go, nope, not doing it. And putting that barrier in my head really helped. But then, like I said, the things I was running away from came back. Those feelings, these dreadful moments where I'm just sitting at work and I'm thinking, good God, why am I so anxious? Why am I so down? Why are all these messed up thoughts popping up in my head? And you'll come to find, especially if you're anything like me, that those thoughts were already in your head while you were a stoner. It's just that you don't have the fog of war that weed gives you to, just separate yourself from that feeling. So I would be walking around, or I'd be driving around. This is actually fairly recent. I'd be driving around and I'd be so annoyed with whatever circumstance or whatever mood I'd be in or however I'd be feeling, and my brain would just say, I fucking hate life. I fucking hate this life. And immediately I'd be like, whoa, these are some thoughts I haven't been thinking in a long time. But that would be a lie. I would be saying, I would say, yeah, I have been thinking those thoughts. It's just I would be stoned while I was thinking those thoughts. So it would be easier to forget them. It'd be easier to ignore them. It'd be much easier to deal with them, quite frankly. And when you first start smoking weed, it's not like this at all, right? When you first start, you mainly start smoking it to go, oh, wow, all these thoughts are gone. All this worry is gone. I feel relaxed. It feels like my brain and my body have been tightened and clenched up this entire time. And this beautiful, beautiful plant has just washed it all away. And I will say, being a new stoner is a beautiful experience. That's why we get into it, right? Smoking weed is excellent. It feels amazing. Everything slows down. You don't feel the need to be so anxious all the time, running around, being such a crackhead. It's the opposite of crack, if you really think about it. The correct strains. Those of you who don't know, it comes in strains. You got indicas, which are more like calm, sit down, fall asleep, eat like everything in the pantry. And then there's sativas, which are a lot more like, okay, let's get stuff done. Let's do this, let's do that. When you first start smoking, you think to yourself, if it's a good strain and it's a good experience, you think to yourself, oh my God, I've never been so relaxed. I feel like I'm part of this couch and this music I'm listening to. It feels like I'm understanding it on such a deeper level, and I'm really, really jiving with it in a way that I never would have thought. I will say, dropping weed, my playlists have not been hitting the way they used to, and you should come to expect that. I mean, spending so much time on an amplifier only to drop it, you got to expect things like that. Through the Fire and the Flames, the song, wouldn't sound that great if the guitar wasn't plugged into the amplifier, or it was on an acoustic guitar. That's kind of what weed is like when you come off of it. It's almost like switching from an electric badass guitar to an acoustic guitar. Now, an acoustic guitar isn't bad, but when you're so used to an electric guitar, you're like, what's this? Where's my sick riffs? Where's that feeling? It's going to take some time. I know it's going to take some time for me. I'm in the thick of it. But one thing I will say, the effects I noticed immediately and the effects that are carrying me through this experience right now, my memory and my focus is undeniably better. It is undeniably better. There are things that I am watching a second time on YouTube, or a movie I'm watching, or something I'm listening to, and it's like I'm listening to it for the first time. Because the only time I consumed that thing, I was high as fuck. And I couldn't remember anything about it. The RoboCop movie, I haven't gotten back to that movie in a long time, but the first time I ever watched that movie, I was stoned as hell. I went to a coworker's house and he rolled me up a joint. We watched RoboCop. It was amazing. The only thing I can really remember about it is that scene when they're rebuilding him, when he's just laying on the gurney or whatever, and they're putting screwdrivers into his face, and it's the first person view, so it's like you're looking at the doctors working on him, but in the first person. That was a pretty cool scene. It was pretty cool while I was stoned, but I can't remember the rest of the movie, aside from clips I've seen. The guy getting shot out the window, the knife-like USB thing in the last scene. He stabs him, and it's fucking crazy. Those movies were raw back then. Anyways, my memory and focus, so much better. My ability to stay on one topic at a time, incredible. My drive to get things done, a lot better. Oh my God, they were right. Weed makes you lazy. Who would have guessed? Cue that gif of the two guys at the computer just like, oh my God. The grass is so much greener on the other side, people. If you're watching this and you're stoned right now, try it for 2-3 weeks. See how you feel. When you get your normal brain chemistry back, you're not going to want to go back. And believe me, when I was in the thick of it, when I was still smoking multiple times a day, every single day, and my prefrontal cortex was telling me, get off this shit, man. This isn't good for us. This isn't good for me. I'm stunted from this shit. I thought to myself, there's no way. How could I live without this? This is the amplifier. This makes me feel like I'm living life. When in reality, you're just locking yourself into a very specific laziness. Something I heard, I forget who said it, but something I heard about weed, which I think is so accurate, is that weed brings you to a 7 out of 10 enjoyment with life. No matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing with life. If you smoke weed, instantly, 7 out of 10 enjoyment. And if you are at a 5 out of 10 enjoyment with life and you smoke weed and you get bumped up to a 7, excellent, awesome. Weed is great. I love it. It's fantastic. But let's say your life is generally at an 8 or a 9 out of 10. You got a really good life. You do all the good habits. You go to the gym. You have an amazing girlfriend. You got all sorts of money. And then you start smoking weed. It brings you down to a 7 out of 10. And the reason for that, I think, is it amplifies things, but that amplification almost paralyzes you. This is where I think the laziness comes in. This is actually kind of an insight I had in the really early years of being a stoner. I was like, okay, why does everyone say this makes me lazy? Because I feel like I can still do work while I'm doing this. I think what happens is the amplification of everything around you. Everything smells deeper. Everything sounds deeper and more vibrant. Everything looks more vibrant and intense. It's fantastic, but in a way it overloads your nervous system. That's why you get anxious, right? Most of the time when you smoke weed and you get anxious and paranoid, it's because you're overstimulated. You hear that person laughing from like 3 blocks away and you're like, oh my God, is he laughing about me? Someone's laughing near me. I must be doing something weird. Oh, and you get all self-conscious. Your pattern recognition goes up tremendously. There's another reason people love it, but it's also a reason that it can be harmful to you. It can be damaging to you. You can go down that rabbit hole and you can think all sorts of things. You can buy into any conspiracy theory that you just happen across. And believe me, the term conspiracy theory was coined by the CIA. So I'm all up on that train. I know certain things, right? I know crack was pumped into the ghettos in the 60s and, MK Ultra, them using LSD to try and figure out mind control, and then the GATE program and all that stuff. I'm awake to all that stuff. And you could say I'm awake to it thanks to weed, but you got to ask yourself, what does all this get me? What does all this do for me? Being a stoner, and especially being in the psychoactive scene, LSD, mushrooms, mescaline, all that stuff, it forces ego dissolution. That's another reason why stoners are seen as lazy, is because their ego gets dissolved by this drug. And it can be a good feeling. It can make you feel like, oh, it feels like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. I've been there. I've been doing all kinds of things, and it was a long time ago, so don't cuff me for it. I used to do that a lot, and I would think to myself, oh, the ego is the enemy. I need to remove the ego, because that's where all the pain comes in. That's where all the suffering comes in. But you got to remember, that's where all the stuff of life is. That's where all the building is. You wouldn't be watching me on your phone if it weren't for someone's ego. You wouldn't be clothed, fed. You wouldn't be alive without many people's ego. So it's like a double-edged sword. We kind of need it, but it also feels like we shouldn't have it. If you want to be a monk, if you want to manually recede your ego, go and do that. Be my guest. It's a beautiful lifestyle. But don't take a drug and tell yourself you're a monk. Be very weary of unearned knowledge. be very weary of unearned knowledge, because you're like hacking your brain. You might not be ready for it, you know? It feels fantastic to see all these patterns and get behind all the, oh, this is how this song is subliminally messaging me and I should avoid it, and move to this stuff. It gives wonderful insight. But it can also just be too much. It can also be a crutch. Something very interesting about smoking weed. When I stopped, my habits, my bad habits, my overeating, my scrolling, my gaming, it all went up. And that seems pretty counterintuitive, right? You'd think to yourself, oh, well, shouldn't the munchies go away? Shouldn't all the bad habits fall away? I think not. And this is why I'm gonna record this journey on my channel as it goes. The weed amplifies life, which makes it easier to get as much of the stimulation and satisfaction out of life as you can. And then you remove the weed, you remove the amplification. So if you have an addictive personality, you think to yourself, oh, well, I need more. I need more. It's not enough now. It's not supplemented with the weed. This candy doesn't taste as good because I'm not high right now. So I need more of the candy to get the same effect. I think this is an early quitting stage. I think this is what happens in an early quitting stage, where you hop off and the thoughts are there in plain view. You can't bury it. So you bury it with plenty of other things. You run away from it with lots of other things. One argument I hear a lot, and one argument I used to tout a lot, is that weed really makes you introspective. It really makes you think about these issues. Because believe me, it does. It reveals a lot. It reveals a lot of your unhealed trauma. It reveals a lot of your hang-ups, a lot of what's going on in the subconscious there. But you got to ask yourself, what are you doing about it? Are you just observing it? Are you just perpetually looking and being aware of it and being overly critical about it? Because if you're not doing something about it, you naturally fall into just self-criticism. You fall into paranoia. You fall into, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't think like that. Oh, don't. There's no action behind it. If you're someone who's literally just looking to take the edge off of life, the edge is going to come back. It's going to come back really hard. And then you'll find days where you're smoking and you just think to yourself, that was a mistake. That was wrong. It doesn't even feel good. I'm not even having fun. But I'm still doing it because it's the best part of my day. And that's how you know you're in the throes of addiction. I used to think you couldn't get addicted to weed. I really thought this. But speaking from the other side, and I'm not saying my brain is completely healed. I think it's going to take a good month or two for me to actually get my normal brain chemistry back, especially in this phase I'm in right now where I'm not cold turkey. You know, if someone offers me a hit of their vape pen, or, you know, my girl buys an edible or something, I'll be like, fuck it, why not? Speaking from the other side, you can 1,000% be addicted to this. 1,000%. And like I said, that if you're watching this right now and you're blasted out of your mind, if you're geeking, take a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You can do it. It's not as hard as you think, but you're gonna encounter challenges you weren't expecting. I'll say that much. And like I said, I'm gonna continue this theme of video moving forward. I'm gonna document it in my journal. I'm gonna document it on this YouTube channel, what it's like. The various stages of getting off of weed. And I'll have more to say about it. And just remember, we are in the trenches together, okay? I'm right here with you. If you want this plant to remove its grip from your life, you can do it. It's all you, man. Bye.